It's often assumed that the heart of a town lies within its main street, where typically you'll find buildings left over from another era, standing in conjunction with the newly built. Yet more and more there are places in which the downtown is but a shadow of its former self. This begs the question, for those willing to ponder it, how long can a town survive after its heart is gone? Hey sightseers, Sightseeing Sally here, and Marty and Mocha are behind me. Mocha's got to take a bathroom break. Anyways, we are checking out some forgotten communities off Highway 2 here in southeastern part of New Mexico. We are in currently Lake Arthur. We're going to head over to another town further north and see what we can find. After visiting Lake Arthur, we were very curious to see the state of its neighbor to the north, Hagerman. What we discovered surprised us. This here is downtown Hagerman. Of the three towns, Dexter, Lake Arthur, and Hagerman, Hagerman is the oldest. Hagerman has been around since the 1880s. With the discovery of artesian water and the railroad's decision to build a line between Eddy, now Carlsbad, and the town of Roswell, multiple settlements sprung up in the area. Of the early towns to form, only these three still remain today. And from what I understand, from what I read on it, Hagerman largely owes its existence to Pat Garrett, the man who shot Billy the Kid. I know, keep talking about the fact that he shot Billy the Kid, but it's the only way I can remember who Pat Garrett is. According to some sources, during the late 1880s, Pat Garrett, along with Charles Eddy, began a series of land improvement projects developing canals in the Pecos Valley region. To generate funds, Eddy went to Colorado to get the famous cigar maker, Robert Weems Tansel, to invest in their project. Instead of investing, Tansel introduced Eddy to J.J. Hagerman, another wealthy investor in Colorado who mainly profited from the mining industries there. After Hagerman arrived in Pecos Valley, Garrett got the boot. Shortly after, the town of Hagerman was started. You can see here the railroad actually cuts right through the middle of town, unlike Lake Arthur where it was more on the outskirts of their town. In front of me is the old Bobcat supermarket. Directly across the street is the Hagerman Police Department. And then off over there where you see our truck parked is the post office. You can see that pretty much all the businesses downtown are gone. And I think a lot of that has to do with as businesses were leaving, you have to the south Artesia that I mentioned earlier in the video, and then to the north Roswell, and both of those communities are quite large with all kinds of fast food restaurants, stores up the wazoo. So for the people living in the communities in between, I don't know that it would be financially feasible or viable for them to have a lot of business in town unless you're offering something that either of those two towns don't have, which I know can be somewhat difficult to accept. However, sometimes these smaller communities are just basically here for you to live, and you do all your working and your playing elsewhere.
This is probably my favorite building in town. I like old gas stations, considering
you collected gas pumps at
one
point?
Yeah, gas memorabilia, yes, at one point when I was a junk collector.
Was or still is?
I'm still working on it.
He's working on it, all right. If he didn't have me, he'd still be collecting way more than what he does. I could see Marty's eyeing up that old parallel parking sign.
First time I've ever seen one.
Apparently we're in Bobcat country. How much you want to make a bet that that's what the high school sports teams are known by as the Bobcats? Anybody? Anybody want to take that bet? Over here you have your auto repair, and then way down there as your Napa Auto Parts store. This building here on the corner reminds me of a building back in my hometown that's called the Washington Station. It's where they serve ice cream in the summer. It's an old historic building in town. Love going there. They got an old museum in there. But that's what this building reminds me of, totally just from the design of it. Unfortunately, I don't have any intel as to what this building used to be. If I had to guess, it might have been a hotel at one point, maybe a tavern in the bottom with living quarters upstairs. Could have been an old factory. I don't know. It's just kind of like use your imagination. Unless there's somebody out there who happens to see this and knows. Because sometimes the best way to get information is through the comment section. Admittedly, I try to do the best I can as far as gleaning the most information I can about a town, but sometimes there just isn't anything out there. And without having access to always to local historians, it's up to the people that watch the video to clue me in. Not that I'm saying it's your job, just that I've learned a lot from reading the comments. Anyways, you can see a mural painted on the side of this building. It says Loaves and Fishes Community Food Pantry. And this building used to be home of the Lake Cafe for good Mexican food, and there's a phone number you can call, 752-3780. But don't really call that number, because I'm sure whoever has it now is going to be irritated if they receive a flood of calls asking if you can order takeout. If you look up there, I think you can see where the power used to come into the building. I see them brown insulators you often find in vintage and antique stores.
Yep, them are what them are.
Looking at it, it looked like some kind of warehouse that...
Or a cotton gin.
Maybe.
Cotton was probably been around here.
Yeah, so is sugar beets, and I don't know what else they grew down here.
I don't know.
Look at us, two clueless people staring at an old building.
I'm thinking maybe an old cotton gin. The pipe sucked the cotton that they picked into the building, and then they processed it somehow. I don't know. I'm just guessing.
Loomis, a Georgia company established in 1867, is the world's largest supplier of machinery and parts for the cotton gin industry and is synonymous with the manufacturer of cotton gins. The word molding that you see is the term used for removal of trash or leaf content from the lint. Thus, what Marty said is likely true, that this building was once a cotton gin. Driving through town, we decided to stop here because this building caught our eye. Old Detective Marty was hypothesizing that it may have been a place to store cotton before it was loaded up on the train. Regardless, it does look like some sort of storage facility. It's right next to the railroad, literally. Like, what, 20 feet, 30 feet?
No, about 40 foot. Well, you got to have clearance for the railroad, for safety.
Unable to determine the building's former use, we continued our exploration of the town, marveling at the differences seen between it and some of the other places we've been. Off in the distance, you can see a new home that's being built and another brand new home over here. Seems like there's a little bit more going on here in Hagerman than there is with its neighbors to the south, Lake Arthur. You've got several churches still active in town, the school, and some local businesses. In all reality, not too different than some of the Midwestern towns we've seen. For many, the loss of a town's main street can only mean death to the town itself. However, as seen in Hagerman, Lake Arthur, and other small towns like them here in America, a town can survive without a downtown. Perhaps All this means is that these towns have learned to adapt, whereas others haven't. On the other hand, it could mean we've just discovered that we've been identifying the heart in the wrong place.